Welcome back to Elements of Chemistry. Today we're going to talk about chemical properties of matter and physical properties of matter. So continuing our discussion of matter. A physical property is something that can be observed or measured without changing the makeup of the matter. When you tear a sheet of paper, it's still paper. When you react it with acid, it's no longer that same material. So a chemical property is observed or shows how matter can be changed and it has new and different properties. Properties can be either intensive or extensive. Extensive properties change depending on how much matter is present. Intensive properties are inherent to the matter and do not change. So if we're looking at some properties here, like mass, that's a physical property because when you measure mass, it doesn't make it change. But mass changes depending on how much of it you have, so it's an extensive property. Length is a physical property, and the amount of length changes depending on how much matter you have. So it is extensive. It depends on how much matter you have present. Volume is also a physical property, and volume changes the more matter you have. So it is also extensive. Density is a physical property. It describes matter. Density describes how tightly packed the matter is, but it is intensive or inherent to the material. Density doesn't change. If you have a piece of ice and you break it in half, the mass will change, the length will change, the volume will change, but the density won't change. Color, also a physical property. It describes the matter. Doesn't matter how much you have, the color stays the same. So it is intensive. I'm just going to start putting eyes here. Reacts with acid, changes the matter. It makes something new. So that is a chemical property. Does the fact that you have 1 drop or a gallon of acid matter? No, it's still going to react. So that is an intensive property. Odor. Odor describes matter. So odor is usually described as a physical property. Sometimes people say the act of smelling does chemical reactions in your body, but we're going to keep odor itself as a physical property. Intensive or extensive? It doesn't really change. A skunk smells like a skunk. So it's intensive. Now, sometimes it may not have enough color or enough scent for you to pick it up. You may not be sensitive enough to register it. Reacts with water, definitely a chemical property. Once again, it is intensive. Hardness describes the matter. It is physical. Does the hardness of a diamond change depending on how big it is? No. So it is intensive. Ductility, that's a weird word. Ductility is the ability of a material to be drawn into a wire. Yes, it is a physical property, and yes, it is intensive. Malleability. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed up. Volatile. Volatile is will it evaporate or not? That's highly related to its boiling point. Volatile is a physical property because rubbing alcohol is a volatile gas. Well, it's just changing state. Changes in state are going to be physical, and it is intensive. Malleability. Now we get to it. Malleability is the ability to be hammered or rolled into a sheet. Metals are very malleable and ductile, so it describes the matter. And yes, it is intensive. Flammability. When something burns, it makes something new. So that would be a chemical, and it is intensive. Now, I know we started out our list with mostly extensive, but you notice we've tripped over to things being intensive. Melting point and boiling point, they describe the matter, so they're physical. They talk about how they will change state. The boiling point of water, 100 degrees. Doesn't matter if you have a gallon of water, a liter of water, or a milliliter of water. So it is intensive. It's inherent to the material. Luster is a fancy word for shine. So yes, it's another physical property, and it is inherent to the matter, so intensive. There are other chemical and physical properties. This is just kind of an overview here. So let's go ahead and talk about physical changes versus chemical changes. A physical change is a change in appearance. The type and makeup of the matter is unchanged. Tearing paper, still paper. In a chemical change, something new with new and different properties are formed. A chemical reaction has occurred. We have taken reactants and turned them into new products. We are following our law of conservation of matter, meaning the atoms that go in have to be the atoms that come out of this chemical reaction. The mass that goes into a chemical reaction is the mass that comes out of the chemical reaction. How do we know a chemical reaction has occurred? Well, there's certain things we look for. A change in energy, heat being absorbed or heat given off. A color change. Formation of a gas means bubbles have happened. Or formation of a precipitate. That's a solid that comes out of a liquid solution. It's an unanticipated solid. Now let's think about this. Bubbles. Well, when you boil something, you have bubbles. But those bubbles are just gases coming out, the water turning into a gas. We're not making any change in the type of matter. So you have to be careful with bubbles. And the thing here is an unanticipated change would be the big key here on those. So that reviews chemical and physical properties, chemical and physical changes, and that's just one more step in our discussion of matter that you need to understand. I hope this video helped. Tune back in and we'll talk about more things about matter. And have a wonderful day, a good tomorrow. Stay safe, be kind, and stay curious. Have a wonderful day, everyone.